In the quaint, picturesque town of Greenfield, the Anderson family was seen as a beacon of success and happiness. Charles Anderson, a well-respected lawyer in his late 40s, and his wife, Margaret, a devoted homemaker, were the epitome of a perfect couple. They lived in a sprawling, beautifully maintained house and were well regarded in their community. The Andersons had always been passionate about helping those in need, often donating to local charities and participating in community service projects. It was this altruistic spirit that led them to consider adoption. After several discussions and much contemplation, they decided to open their home to a foster child, hoping to provide a loving environment for a child in need. Enter Sarah, a quiet and reserved 15-year-old girl with a troubled past. She had been shuffled through various foster homes, each leaving a mark on her fragile psyche. Her file was thick with reports of behavioral issues, but the Andersons believed they could help her. They were determined to offer her the stability and love she had been deprived of for so long. From the moment Sarah stepped into the Anderson household, it was clear she was different. She rarely smiled and often kept to herself, observing the family dynamics with a cautious eye. Margaret tried her best to make Sarah feel welcome, decorating her room with care and ensuring she had everything she needed. Charles offered his support, providing guidance and reassurance. Despite their best intentions, integrating Sarah into the family proved challenging. She often reacted defensively to gestures of kindness and seemed to carry an air of mistrust. Margaret, ever the nurturing mother, attributed Sarah's behavior to her difficult past and believed that with time, love, and patience, she would come around. As weeks turned into months, subtle tensions began to surface. Sarah's presence started to affect the family's harmony. Margaret noticed Sarah's reluctance to engage with them and her habit of disappearing for hours without explanation. Items around the house went missing, only to reappear in odd places. The family began to feel the strain of Sarah's presence. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Margaret noticed Sarah's empty seat. She found her in her room, sitting on the bed with a distant look in her eyes. Margaret gently encouraged her to join the family, but Sarah's response was cold and detached. "I don't belong here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's heart ached for Sarah. "Of course you do, Sarah. We're your family now, and we love you." Sarah's eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and sadness. "Family? You don't even know me!" Margaret was taken aback, but maintained her composure. "We want to get to know you, Sarah. Please, give us a chance." Sarah reluctantly joined them at the dinner table, but the atmosphere was tense. Charles tried to lighten the mood with light-hearted conversation, but Sarah remained distant, barely touching her food. As the days passed, Sarah's behavior became increasingly erratic. She would disappear for hours, returning with no explanation. Margaret's prized jewelry went missing, only to be found in strange places around the house. Charles's important legal documents were tampered with, causing him significant trouble at work. One night, Margaret overheard Sarah talking to herself in her room. Concerned, she knocked on the door and entered. She found Sarah sitting on the floor, surrounded by old family photos she had taken from the attic. Margaret gently asked what she was doing. "I'm just trying to understand," Sarah replied, her voice trembling. "Understand what?" Margaret asked softly. "Why you took me in," Sarah said, looking up with tear-filled eyes. "What do you expect from me?" Margaret knelt beside her. "We took you in because we care about you, Sarah. We want to give you a home, a family. We don't expect anything in return." Sarah's expression softened for a moment, but the hardness soon returned. People always expect something. No one gives without wanting something back. Margaret hugged her, trying to convey the genuine love and care they felt. But deep down, she knew winning Sarah's trust would be a long, difficult journey. As the months went by, the Andersons continued to struggle with Sarah's behavior. One afternoon, while Margaret was out shopping, Sarah approached Charles with a request. "Can you help me with my homework?" she asked, her tone uncharacteristically sweet. Charles, surprised but willing to help, agreed. As they worked together, Sarah seemed genuinely engaged, asking questions and showing interest. For a moment, Charles thought perhaps Sarah was finally opening up. But that night, chaos erupted. Charles woke to find his office trashed, important files shredded, and his desk in disarray. Furious, he confronted Sarah, who denied any involvement. "I was asleep in my room," she said, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. "Why would I do something like that?" The family was at a loss. Charles decided it was time to seek professional help. They arranged for Sarah to see the rapist, hoping to uncover the root of her behavior and find a way to help her. In therapy, Sarah remained guarded. She spoke in vague terms about her past, revealing little about the trauma she had endured. The therapist suggested family counseling, believing that bringing the issues into the open might help. During one of these sessions, Sarah finally opened up. She spoke about the neglect and abuse she had suffered in previous foster homes, her voice shaking with emotion. The Andersons listened, their hearts breaking for her. They realized the depth of the scars she carried and vowed to do everything they could to help her heal. But even with therapy, Sarah's behavior grew more erratic. One evening, the family returned from an outing to find the house in disarray. Furniture was overturned, and family photos were smashed. Sarah was nowhere to be found. The police were called, and a search ensued. Sarah was found in a nearby park, sitting on a swing with a vacant expression. When asked why she had trashed the house, she simply shrugged, offering no explanation. Margaret and Charles were at their wits' end. They loved Sarah and wanted to help her, but her behavior was tearing their family apart. They decided to enroll her in a specialized program for troubled teens, hoping the structured environment and intensive therapy would make a difference. At the facility, Sarah was initially resistant. She kept to herself, refusing to participate in group activities. But slowly, she began to engage, forming bonds with some of the other teens who had also experienced trauma. She started to show signs of progress, and for the first time, the Andersons felt a glimmer of hope. Months passed, and Sarah continued to show progress at the facility. The Andersons visited regularly, attending family therapy sessions and working to rebuild trust. Sarah seemed genuinely remorseful, expressing gratitude for their support and a desire to change. After nearly a year in the program, Sarah was deemed ready to return home. The Andersons were hopeful, believing that Sarah had truly changed and that they could finally be the family they had always wanted to be. But just when it seemed things were finally turning around, a shocking discovery shattered the fragile pace. One afternoon, the Andersons were found dead in their home, victims of a poisoning. The news shocked the community of Greenfield, leaving everyone in disbelief. The initial investigation revealed no signs of forced entry, leading the police to suspect that the perpetrator was someone the family knew. As the police combed through the house for clues, they discovered Sarah's journal hidden in a drawer. The entries provided chilling insight into her twisted mind and meticulously detailed her plan for revenge. Each page was filled with dark, disturbing thoughts, revealing Sarah's growing hatred for the Andersons and her desire to make them suffer. The journal entries began innocently enough, with Sarah expressing her frustration and feelings of isolation. But as time went on, her writings took a darker turn. She wrote about how she felt the Andersons were trying to change her, to mold her into something she was not. She described her feelings of betrayal and anger, convinced that their kindness was a facade. One entry read, "They smile at me, but I see through it. They think they can fix me, but I'm not broken." I'll show them what it means to truly suffer. Another entry detailed her growing obsession with exacting revenge. They took me in to feel good about themselves. They don't care about me. I'll make them pay for their lies. I'll destroy everything they love. The final entries were the most disturbing. Sarah had meticulously planned the murder, detailing each step with chilling precision. She wrote about how she had researched different methods of killing, finally settling on a plan that would cause the most pain and fear. "I've decided on poison," one entry read. "It's fitting, slow, and painful. I'll watch them suffer. They deserve it." The last entry was dated the night of the murders. "Tonight is the night. I've prepared everything. They won't suspect a thing. I'll slip the poison into their drinks at dinner. They'll trust me, and that will be their downfall." The details of the murders were horrific. Sarah had followed through with her plan, poisoning the Andersons during their family dinner. She had watched as they began to feel the effects, their faces contorting in pain and confusion. Charles had tried to stand, but his legs gave way beneath him. Margaret had reached out to Sarah, pleading for help, but Sarah had only watched with cold detachment. As the poison took hold, the Andersons' cries grew weaker. Sarah described in her journal how she felt a sense of satisfaction as she watched them die. She detailed the look of betrayal in their eyes as they realized what was happening, and how it only fueled her sense of vindication. "I watched them die," she wrote. The police were horrified by the contents of the journal. It was clear that Sarah had planned and executed the murders with chilling precision. The community of Greenfield was stunned as the details emerged, unable to comprehend how a young girl could commit such heinous acts against the very people who had taken her in and tried to give her a better life. Sarah was immediately apprehended and charged with the murders of Charles and Margaret Anderson. The trial was swift and highly publicized, drawing intense media attention. Throughout the proceedings, Sarah remained unrepentant, her demeanor cold and defiant. Her lack of remorse shocked everyone in the courtroom. During the trial, the prosecution presented the journal as key evidence, reading aloud the chilling entries that detailed her meticulous planning and execution of the murders. The defense attempted to argue that Sarah's traumatic past had driven her to insanity, but the overwhelming evidence of premeditation left little room for doubt. Witnesses testified about the Andersons' kindness and generosity, painting a picture of a family that had done everything they could to help Sarah. The community was heartbroken, struggling to reconcile the image of the troubled girl they knew with the cold-blooded murderer described in the courtroom. In the end, Sarah was found guilty on all counts. The judge, citing the heinous nature of the crimes and Sarah's complete lack of remorse, sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The community of Greenfield was left to grapple with the aftermath of the tragedy, mourning the loss of Charles and Margaret Anderson and the dark turn that Sarah's life had taken. The Andersons' house, once a symbol of success and happiness, stood empty for years, a haunting reminder of the events that had unfolded within its walls. The community struggled to move on, the memory of the Anderson family forever etched in their minds. For the Andersons' relatives and friends, the pain of their loss was compounded by the betrayal they felt. They had welcomed Sarah into their lives, believing they could make a difference, only to be repaid with unimaginable horror. Their story serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and challenges of adoption, particularly when dealing with children who have experienced severe trauma. The legacy of the Anderson family became one of caution and awareness. Their story was used to advocate for better support systems for foster children and adoptive families, emphasizing the need for comprehensive psychological evaluations and ongoing therapy to address deep-seated traumas. Sarah's journey through the justice system and her eventual imprisonment did little to heal the wounds left by her actions. She remained a troubled and enigmatic figure, her motivations and emotions a topic of endless speculation and analysis. In prison, Sarah was placed in a high-security psychiatric facility, where she continued to receive treatment for her psychological issues. Her therapists faced an uphill battle, working to unravel the deep-seated anger and mistrust that had driven her to such extreme actions. Progress was slow, and the likelihood of her rehabilitation remained uncertain. The Andersons' relatives continued to honor their memory by supporting charitable causes and working to raise awareness about the complexities of adoption and the importance of mental health support. They hoped that by sharing their story, they could prevent other families from experiencing similar tragedies. The story of the Anderson family and Sarah serves as a powerful reminder of the challenges and complexities of adoption. It highlights the importance of understanding the deep-seated traumas that foster children may carry and the need for comprehensive support systems to help them heal. It is a story of love, betrayal, and the enduring hope for redemption. In the end, the Andersons' experience changed the community of Greenfield forever. It taught them the limits of their capacity to help and the importance of seeking professional guidance when faced with such profound challenges. Their story stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unyielding hope for a better future, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It is a narrative that underscores the need for thorough preparation and understanding when opening one's home to a child in need, recognizing that love, while powerful, is sometimes not enough to heal deep-seated wounds.